All right, we are live. Now, I'm gonna quickly say that the reason we've not done a Knights Talks in a while is my fault. I've been crazy busy trying to get accustomed to France, as I was telling you backstage, and I don't really have an excuse. But that and I got sick for like 2 weeks, which set me back quite a bit because, well, I didn't expect to catch a flu after getting an allergy attack, which almost landed me in the hospital. So you can well understand, like, I wasn't exactly keen for the past 2 weeks to do anything.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've been meaning to jump back on this podcast and to actually be responsible about it and post it properly on Substack. So this will be on Substack. Never fear, because I'm needing more and more content that's not that I can put up without, you know what I mean, like needing hours and hours of research or writing or something. Especially since more and more of my free time is focused on writing novels and whatnot.
Teaching.
Yeah, and I'm also trying to do research for a couple of history essays because I'm wanting to write for a history magazine. Because that's pretty exciting. I'm going to be writing about the first siege of Paris by the Vikings in
Ooh.
1885 to 1880. No, wait, 885 to 887, not 18. Whoops, slip of the tongue there.
It's hopefully it's not going to look like the show Vikings.
No, no, no. This was actually cool. This was not gay.
Yeah.
But, anyways, I'm happy to welcome back my co-host Black Knight. How have you been?
Ooh, well, I've had like 3 weeks of flu, um, almost the same as anyone the past month. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was the end of the past month. It spilled over to the beginning of this month, and I somehow was still able to work.
Oh
Uh,
wow!
though, the number of typos and other errors were like my helpers, because I have like a few helpers. Me being like a multilingual person,
Mm-hmm.
and English my third language. I always have my helpers, and they were like, "What's happening? Are you ill or something? What's wrong?" Well, we were saying way too many typos and stuff, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sick as a dog." So
Hmm.
pretty much, I was able to keep working, and completed the last chapter of the Province of Terrans 3, which was the
But
third Vote Your Own Adventure series for Substack of that series, and the
okay.
last one. Yeah. So, and I was also able to somehow I was also able to start on my new Shadow Fantasy, heavy on the fairies,
Hmm.
um, Call of the Winding Road,
Yeah,
which
the
is
Winding Road. I've seen it
yeah,
on
the
Substack.
fifth chapter, which
Wow.
yeah, it was something that I was unsure that I had enough legwork done, um, because it was one of my fantasy realms which I have created for D&D games, and I only ran a single session. No, not a single session, a single campaign with this. Mm, and I wasn't sure because it was like long, long ago. But when I found my notes, I discovered that I had most of the world building completed, and I was thus able to write a lot of chapters. Yeah.
Okay. Well, um, I just know that
You're going to
I,
love it.
on the other
You just have to
hand,
move your
yeah.
like you just have to move your like elegant brain and
Okay, okay,
read it.
fair enough. I've, I'll read it. I'll read it. I'll read it on my phone. Okay, on the way to
Yeah.
work, I'll do it. Um, but as it is, I've been writing mostly in the Heracles novel because I'm wanting to rush that to an end. Well, not rush, but like I just want it to be over because,
You want to
well,
complete it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I want to
That's like
complete sort of
my
the
eighth
Western seas.
book. I really want to complete it, but it's not gonna happen this year.
Well, this book's Heracles. I'll be finished probably, or almost finished this year. It's speeding up, so I'm almost done the fourth labor. I'm going to be writing the fifth labor as I hope one chapter, and it's hopefully going to start being one chapter a labor rather than two chapters a labor.
Ooh.
Um, and the well, I'm lucky that it was the Erymanthian boar, which doesn't require as much, like high-minded literature as
Mm.
what some of the others did.
It's a forest
Um,
pig. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Magical forest pig.
yeah. But I've started to put hints that there's something off about Eurystheus making these requests, capture me this beast or that beast. And Heracles is starting to get an inkling something's off. And that these labors, you know what I mean? Like he's, you know, Heracles he says, if it was just a labor that risks my life, you know what I mean? That no one else could achieve, I should have been done by the Hydra. But I'm now hunting animals and I'm having to capture them. Something's off here. Like he's starting to suspect that there's something off about Eurystheus. And so Heracles is beginning to become suspicious and is positing in his mind, somewhere in the back of it, that he's going to need to keep a closer eye on this king. Now, my plan is that there's going to be a plot involving Eurystheus, the guy who gives the orders to Heracles for the labors.
Yeah.
Um, that there's going to be a plot, and so I'm going to, because he's going to be gathering all these beasts, but it's for a specific reason. And of course, he has the blessings of Hera, because Hera's also a villain in the book, in this first part of the book, I should say. And so Heracles will have to start, like, he's going to get some help from some elves and from his nephew Aeolus and his mother. And he's going to start to understand that there is a lot more at stake than just atoning for the death of his family, even as all he wants is to repent of that sin. Now, um, the idea is there will be a climax, a conflict, a climax at the end of this thing. But I'm planning now. This first book is just, you know what I mean, like a prologue to the story of Heracles, because there's going to be four parts. There's Heracles and the 12 labors. There's Heracles and Omphale. There's Heracles and the war of the Gigantos, like with Typhon and that. And then there's going to be the latter years of Heracles. But I'm wanting to just close out the first volume like this year to just, you know what I mean? Like, okay, that's it. I want this part done with. And
Yeah.
then I'll
Yeah. You want it wrapped up. Yeah.
yeah, along with the Sword of the Western Seas, which I could finish in probably like a month, and Journey to Kingship within a few weeks, because I need to wrap these things up for Brotherhood of the Gemstone, so I can get back to working on that, finish Volume 2, and then start writing Volume 3, and then wrap that up, and then it's going to be time to wrap up Dark Spire Conspiracy Part 2, and Akuma no Ran Part 2. And once all these projects are done, I'm going to work, well, I might work before I work on Akuma no Ran Part 2 on the Drakonikiad epic poem, because I want to get back to writing that epic poem. I don't know if you recall it, but it was my Anglo-Saxon styled Bulgaria versus Greece type epic poem about a great Byzantine fantasy character of Dan's novel called Drakonikios. Bessarions is actually given name, but he's given uh, the surname Drakonikios, and he the dragon, and he conquers this Germanic Bulgarian army that is massive and that's invaded the borders of the empire, and he beats them back and conquers them in this great battle. But it's supposed to be an epic poem, and I think there's like 2 or 3 books finished of it, but like then Dan and I put it on the back burner. But now I'm basically just saying I want to get back to writing that because I was having fun, and now it's like, can I just get this other shit out of the way? But one thing I wanted to discuss with you is something that I've been thinking about for a bit, and it's about like how do we writers think of and approach our own books? Because for one thing, um, there's something very that I've noticed that's very interesting about how Tolkien and even Robert E. Howard approached their literature, let's say, and even the writer of I think it's the Foundation trilogy, and even like a lot of writers of that older generation that I do, like even the Libs, I got to give them credit from that generation, like, and older, is that when you look at how like Tolkien or even going back to, let's say, Chrétien de Troyes or Homer looked at their own literature, they intellectualized it. Like they would say, well, they'd think about things like, for Tolkien's sake, in his case, uh, what happens when an elf child is born? Well, much of the mother's metaphysical energy enters into the child, so that she is, on some spiritual level, drained. And so this explains why many of the elves could only have 2, maybe 3 kids. Some of them only 1, and why humans were able to outbreed them because elves just couldn't keep up. On the other hand, um, the mothers would be drained after so many kids because they'd be losing actual spiritual energy, their own life force, so to speak, and they were still immortal, but it's just they'd feel the drain. On a spiritual level, they'd be aged up. You know what I mean? Like it would affect them very strongly. So Tolkien looked at that and even looked at things like the philosophy of his books and the theology. Like, let's say, where does it stand vis-a-vis Christian theology? Let's say, like the Secret Fire. What is that? Gandalf. What is he? In like, if you were to put him into a Christian, or I should say, Orthodoxo Catholic, you know what I mean, kind of understanding of the universe, cosmology. Eru, what is he? Like, even Robert E. Howard intellectualized his work, like looking at it from an anthropological, historical, theological point of view. So, and I'm wondering, when did that stop? Now, I think it stopped sometime around the 70s or something. People just stopped taking their fiction as seriously and stopped asking these big, important questions about their works. And I think that this is something that we on Substack are blessed in, that we can actually do this. But I don't see too many people doing it. And this is something which I think is genuinely a little, uh,
It's it's sad.
yeah, yeah.
It's
And I think it
well,
has to do with modernity making us feel
yeah.
ashamed of our literature when we ought not to.
Well, it's I think it was part of this, like, of like one of the few. goals of those who pushed for modernity was to downgrade and dumb down not just literature but every other like every
Feel.
other yeah. And it's because when you have people with honed imagination, expanded imagination, because this is what this type of literature does. It makes people imagine harder,
Oh,
better, think
yeah.
of new concepts, and expand their minds, which is also
Yeah.
helping them to embolden their spirit. And
Mm.
if you deny that to, let's say, 4, 5 generations of people,
Hmm.
they will grow up and not even have an inner voice. And these kinds of people, they are easily oppressed, easily ruled, because they cannot, like, they will think um, on the most basic level, and they will think exactly what they are told to think. They will not dare imagine anything else. And this is why we had these um, throngs of how should I call them, NPCs, uh, trained seals clapping their fins during the coup, and they were basically saying, "Yes, Big Daddy government, oppress me harder." This is what dumbing down literature and dumbing down everything else, which is closely related to, like, all they're pretty much in the same camp.
Mm.
You do this. This is the um, those are the consequences.
Okay, so now I'm asking a question here. Now you said there was expanded imagination and imagination as two separate concepts. So imagination at the basic imagination would be like the ability to create a basic story, let's say.
Yes, and grasping basic concepts.
Okay. While an expanded imagination is one that can like Tolkien, explore
Yeah,
all the cosmology, the linguistics, the like on this expansive level. So it's like the
yeah.
difference between I don't know, like the Animorph writers. I don't know if you know that series, and like bloody George Lucas with his Star Wars. It's like that kind of difference. Like you know what I mean? Like the most mediocre sci-fi writer in comparison to
What was that? Animorph Riders?
Animorph. You know where you had bugs that infected people and would take over their brains, and the Animorphs were the characters who ripped their brains.
Yeah, yeah,
It was a
yeah.
Canadian
I
series.
think I vaguely remember this, but I'm not.
Yeah, it was right after the Iron Curtain fell. Like it's in the '90s,
Uh,
and there was a pretty good TV series, short-lived, but the problem with it was they really out to have just done every book and just leaned in, but the budget got cut. And because Anglo Canadian, TV, you can't be putting money into it. Well, it always destroys it. But anyways, my point was you have the most mediocre sci-fi, which even if enjoyable, like it's
it's
nothing.
basic.
Yeah, it's basic. It's fucking basic. When in contrast to, let's say, uh, like a lot of what you've told me about, like Star Shatter or like Star Wars, like these expansive cosmological concepts, and like this great universe with linguistics and this expansive, like thousands of years of history and theology and whatnot behind it, and like all these different ideas that exist within it and whatnot. So, and the ability to self-analyze your work, like let's say, um, like analyze what character is what archetype and what character like
Hmm. Yeah, that.
is like the also like the culture aspects of your universe, like what differentiates the French of Star Shatter, like so many thousands of years in the future, from the modern day French, or like past French, like that sort of thing, or like the idea of like analyzing the theology, but also like the metaphysics, like the hamster metaphysics, like of your space hamsters and like their cuisine and
Oh,
how you come in.
yes, and the way how certain people almost assume that they are not like there are some of the more like religious groups in this universe, and some of them assume that especially the hamsters, they're not really like like normal creatures of flesh and blood. They're like more of a pieces of the universe's spirit.
Yeah. So
That's
like
that's why they can talk to weapons pretty much,
yeah.
which is
So there's
yeah.
yeah, there's an aspect there to the enlightened. There's an enlightened element to that sort of imagination, and um, so yeah, there's the like you said, there's just the expanded imagination and the imagination as two separate concepts, and I think that for one thing, that's a very interesting point of view on things and how these things operate on your part. But also that I think on Substack, one thing I'm frustrated we haven't seen more of is, and one thing I will actually admit, I've been noticing Arcadian Wield. I think you've noticed he's been
Oh
moving
yeah.
over. He's been doing a lot of this. He's been intellectualizing a lot of our work and analyzing it from a poetic and also a philosophical point of view. So shout out to him. Him and Caleb Hammond, the
Match.
Saint Tolkien guy. These two have been doing a because I've been talking with Caleb as well, and he does the same thing. He's like, so when you're writing from a theological point of view, what are you doing as a writer? And also, your characters, your mythology. If it operates like Tolkien's does it operate along these rules and guidelines and this intellectual process with the characters themselves? So like Caleb and Arcadian were kind of, I'll say outsiders, but like they're now very much part of the integrated into like the entire, you know what I mean? I don't want to say fiction stack, but like you know what I mean, like our kind of circle.
Hmm.
But I'm very happy with that because Caleb has a much bigger platform. But Caleb's also got a very interesting Christian perspective. Like it's very much. It feels a lot closer to like the Catholicism of like Tolkien or Christopher's day. You know what I mean? Like I really do appreciate that perspective on his part, and he does approach everything with like a professor's intellectualism. Arcadian is very much an intellectual. Like, you know, like talking with him, it's like, yeah, this guy's very sharp. But they're approaching it from a different perspective. And I kind of feel that that's what's needed.
Hmm.
And I know like I've neglected, like I think Joseph L. Weiss.
There are people who have honed their imagination, so they have this, like they went to the next level.
Yeah.
And
But
then that's what we need. That's exactly what we need, and everyone can do it.
yeah.
um
But I
you
think
just,
with,
you just have to you just have to read old books.
yeah, yeah, you do. I think that with our, well, what I was going to say with Joseph L. Weiss is that and yourself is that you guys encouraged me to start writing essays on my own universe, which I will. I've just I planned for it last week, but I was so sick as a dog that
You
like
can't do everything. You just
yeah,
have to pace yourself.
Yeah. Now I'm currently about to finish my nine worthies essay for tomorrow, and then I'm going to work on my greatest novel, the 20th century of Japan essay for Sunday. So I'm going to be working on those this weekend, but I'm going to slowly craft for Tuesday a essay on the wolframs of my world, which is to say the wolf folk or
Yeah,
dog. So I'm going to start writing essays on every race, including the elves, the dwarves, and whatnot, and their histories, their how they came into being.
and the ratlings,
What?
the small, like the smaller um, rat folk.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll be getting into the rat folk. There are different ethnicities of them, so I'm going to be expanding on them a lot. Um, and I'm going to write about each of them. I'm hoping to do that one race every week, so that by mid 2026, every race will have been explained and detailed. And you know,
You've got
um,
to, by the way, you've got to answer um, most important question when you're
mhm.
writing the animalistic races, and that is, do they like nose boobs?
Do I like what?
Do do the animal races like nose boobs?
I'm not sure. Um,
That's why it's
they
important.
I've never heard the term nose boobs.
Nose boobs, like when you boop the nose of the
Oh,
cat.
nose boobs. Yeah,
Yeah,
I wasn't hearing that right.
yeah,
Um, Bop them on the. Did they like that? The dogs, no. I'll say that. The rats don't mind, but the cats are a little suspicious when people try to do that. The
yeah,
dogs, the dogs don't care for it, but they like to like press their nose against other people's noses.
yeah, and sniff them.
Yeah, but they don't sniff people's asses. I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
putting my foot down, and no, they don't.
No, 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 no.
No,
Yeah,
that'd be gross.
yeah.
But dog.
And my hamsters, they like to sniff. They like to sniff other people's food, but they will politely ask. Um, they will not just shove their like then. No, they would politely ask. It's like, yes, please, can we gently sniff the soup, the soup, the soup?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's going to be me doing that, and then I want to do the metaphysics of each race and like the spiritual qualities and elements of each of these races, and I think
Ooh.
that will be an interesting.
It's going to be quite welcome by the readers.
I think that it's also that I want to write something like a nature of Middle Earth for my world,
Mm, yeah.
and like, you know what I mean. I want to do that. Write about the marriage customs, the food. So yes, we'll be getting some culinary foodie
I even
aspects.
I even wrote. I think we talked about this like earlier when
You've been
we
doing
yeah, when we were discussing glossaries, especially in the context of like long fantasy series and sci-fi series. And I mentioned that I wrote about each of the races, and some. I even wrote about some of the evil races, like the Tazarans, for example, and their marriage customs and their um, perhaps not the food per se, but um, their spiritual, yeah, their spirituality and marriage customs and stuff. Yeah, that was like uh, my readers loved that.
Yeah. Well, good reason. That's an important aspect of one's world. And you've been kind of leading the charge on posting world building notes on Substack. And I
Mhm.
think that, well, that's an influence on me in my thinking as well. And I think that, like, like many of us writers do write notes to ourselves about our worlds and about all the details. But we don't spend enough time intellectualizing and going like, okay, what is the nature of star shatter? Like, What are the hamster marriage customs? And I know a lot of people will say, well, that's lame. Why would you write that? Why wouldn't you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it offers a better understanding of one's world. And when you look at like the family unit as the, like, you know, like as the first founding block of a society, once you understand how they rear their children and how they marry and their courting customs and their food and their personal philosophies, you understand the society as a whole. Now, that will give insight into the writer, but also um, it allows the reader to kind of find some sort of insight into themselves because the all of
Yeah,
this
that
is
that's what you're leading into is like the self reflection. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm also planning a essay on um, fiction guide and my fiction guide, and what I'm thinking of writing about is, and this is on a topic I've planned for next week. Does the art influence the writer? And I know you're going to say, well, duh, but I know you, but you're going to be like, yeah, but in that thick Bulgarian accent of yours. But the thing is, I know, but the thing is, I've been pondering it. I guess I'm slower to ponder these things, but I've been pondering what it means as well. Like when Tolkien was writing the Silmarillion, did it change him as a human being? And yeah, I found the answer is yes. And I'm going to make a weird argument. I think he would have divorced Edith or something had he not written the Silmarillion. I think that forcing himself to sit down and write Beren and Luthien and also write this entire enchanted universe for her and for England and his family fundamentally changed John Ronald Reuel Tolkien as a human being. You know what I mean? The story of Arda sung itself to him in a way. Like, yeah, he was singing it into being, so to speak. You know what I mean? But he was
Hmm.
also, or like writing it, but it was rewriting him as a human being. So, like, and even Lord of the Rings, because we got to bear in mind what few people know is that she didn't like C.S. Lewis. Tolkien was very attached to Jack, but the thing is, he eventually gave Jack Lewis the advice: you always choose your wife over even your friends. You know, because you got to live with your wife forever. You have to choose her at every turn, because if you don't, you're committing a betrayal against yourself. Now, this is because Jack, you know, was having to choose between his own wife and John, and John told him, "You choose your wife. You don't choose me. Like I know, no, like I love you as a brother, but you got to choose your wife." Now, I think that was also in part because John had made the choice. I'm going to choose my wife. You know what I mean? Long ago. But the thing is, what influenced him to do that? And I've started to think that it was Arda that instigated this change. Yes, he was a passionate Catholic, but we got to bear in mind that Edith did not like Jack. She also forced Tolkien to move away from Oxford, which he loved, and into a place he didn't like. But he did it for her because he loved her. And that love came before all else. And I'm not saying what I say to attack John Ronald Reuel Tolkien. I'm just saying, on like when he first started crafting Arda, he was about 20. And the first few stories were like Beren and Luthien and whatnot, amongst others. But a lot of the stories were heavily influenced by her in a way. And this furthered his love for her. And so that I don't want to say he idealized her, but like, or put her on a pedestal, but on a spiritual level, he saw it as I have to fight for her. You know what I mean? Like, I need to fight, carve a path to her, to the woman I love. And this influenced his thinking. And she, in turn, was influenced and smitten by the stories he told her. You know what I mean? Like, like, because, like, let's be honest, he's writing a mythology just for you. And, like, remember, she read Children of Húrin long before it was published. She read Beren and Luthien. She read Earendil. Like, all these great stories. Like, when you got a guy saying, like, these stories are for you, what will that do to a woman? Now, I think she was very much like, I don't want to say flattered, but moved because, clearly he's in love with her. But the thing is, this stuff was an expression of his passion for her, right? But it was also influencing him because the more he wrote it, the more he was influenced by it into thinking, she's the one. No, that's it. No divorce. No, never, never. You never question your love for someone like that, and that's good. It made him a better man. But and I think that true art makes you a better man. You know what I mean? At your core, or a better woman in ladies' cases. And it was the Catholicism, the personal character of Tolkien, and I also think Arda. These three factors that influenced him, so that he did what all men must. He stuck by it. You look at Robert E. Howard, how dark his universe is. I think it began to rewrite him on some level. You know what I mean? And this is what led him down a dark path. Because his stories get dark. They get really dark. And I think to an extent that darkness influenced him. Um, and in that regard, it was maybe not the best thing ever. Like when you read Hour of the Dragon, it is the most sincere and beautiful of the stories he wrote. But then when you get to Red Nails, it's so much darker. It's so much sadder, and you can see the development of the man himself. And yeah, people will say that's the man influencing the art, but I also think it's the literature influencing him. And I really like Howard, but I think maybe he needed to take like a summer break from writing so he could, um, you know what I mean, like work a truck job or something. I'm not saying like quit writing. I just mean he needed to put space between himself and the Hyborian Age for a bit, but not write like one of his westerns that he really liked, because that was just more like that was cutting himself off from himself in a way. You know what I mean? Because his true character was that of Conan, that of the Hyborian Age, and the Hyborian Age and Arda are expressions of Tolkien and Howard, but also, at some point the artist becomes an expression of what they have crafted. So you're both the clay and the hammer, is what I tend to think of when it comes to, or at least when I'm thinking of more and more with literature and art. And so it's like when I look at George Lucas, for example, you look at his Star Wars universe. I think that the creation of the original and prequel trilogies and his involvement also in the Jedi Knight series and Force Unleashed and whatnot fundamentally changed him as a human being. You know what I mean? Like the George Lucas of 1973 is not the same man as that of like 1980 or 1983 or 1999 or 2005. Yes, that age has something to do with it, but these works rewrote him in a way. You know what I mean? And I also tend to think that, like, on a spiritual level, like you look at Tolkien, he was very tired by the end. He had no more stories, I think, to tell on a spiritual level. Like maybe there's something of the writer's spirit that goes into the work, and sometimes you don't have as like George can't create like he used to, because he put all that energy into the works he did, and there was nothing left metaphysically within himself. At least these are the two strands of thought I'm kind of flirting with, and I'm going to be writing essays about in the coming days. I don't know what you think of my
Yes,
theory. The writer is rewritten by the
yeah,
work.
yeah. It's not just that the writer is rewritten. It's basically what you write writes you. That's one of the concepts that I'm currently revisiting within my own writing, especially in the new fantasy uh, that I'm working on right now, called The Winding Road, and especially the the arcanists, who are one of the, well, they're not pure wizards or sorcerers per se. It's like magic works differently. in this universe. But there are these like words of power, which were they are legacy of the gods, or more like legacy of the creator god that created the entire universe. And yes, some are so powerful that they want to be spoken. They're basically they want to be spoken. They um, and if the one who knows them is weak, if they do not have the imagination, um, they will not have the will to control them, and they will become um, just like slave of that word, slave of the language, the spoken language, and through them, this word may cause great damage, which is yeah, it's a metaphysical concept which is quite. It was always interesting to me, but lately, in this like after finishing the seventh Star Shattered book and
Mhm.
tackling some of the in-universe metaphysical concepts about the digital turning into physical and vice versa, especially during like around the ending of the book where I was writing about the ancient AI, many of whom have transcended the boundaries of their original digital universe that they exist in. And some of them are capable into transmogrifying to real beings, but
Ooh,
which is it
dangerous.
yeah, it's how could you contain being which is capable of, let's say, calculating uh, and solving problems within picoseconds within the digital realm, and someone like use algorithms and apps and different software which reacts and acts with insane speed and is capable of doing all of these near magical things in the digital realm. And then what happens when such a being is manifested into physical realm, um, and how do they like both realms affect each other. And how much of one's spirit is lost if they keep projecting themselves into like if they're a physical being and they keep projecting their minds into the digital world. So yeah, indeed, you are correct that like the more I thought of this, the more I wrote uh, about all of the advanced aspects of my universe. I changed.
Oftentimes, we do end up changing. Excuse me, I sound like an old man there. Oftentimes, we do end up changing things.
Back in my days.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, there. Um, yeah, like we do change details, we do change things. Um, and the thing is, I think I think the very idea that we are changed by the art we create is something that um, like people. I know some people would be cynical about it and say, "Well, that's just proof people are such changeable beings and fuck them and whatnot." But these are misanthropes with little in the way of the like misanthropy is easy, idealism or even um, looking at things positively is hard. But the thing is, um, we human beings are capable of great change. We are very strange and interesting creatures. And the reality is, as you write some things, there are things that stand out to you when you reread your own work, or like later in the writing process, your thoughts turn to in some other direction, or you go, "Huh, I didn't think I'd do that," and whatnot. Like you discover new sides of yourself, but you also, at least I found that, what was it? When I was writing Olymp no Machi, I almost had the impression the work was, you know, writing me, or
Yeah, yeah.
I had,
It wanted to be written.
yeah, that it wanted to be written, but I also had the impression like some of my values and ideas when I wrote like Akuma no Dan or the Heracles novel were being rewritten, and a lot of my thinking has been altered and whatnot. Same with uh, well, some of my most recent elf stories that I'm writing in the ancient era, it's, you know what I mean? Like my own ideas and ethics and whatnot are being rewritten. This is not to say I think I'm a sociopath or psychopath. No, I think that my views are being rewritten and changed in a more positive sense. In that, I value people more. Like, you know what I mean? I socialize more, and I actually genuinely appreciate other human beings a lot more than what I used to. But I also look at them and you know what I mean? I see the value of certain things. I don't other things. And I think that, um,
That's you leveling your human jutsu.
yeah, I guess. But I think that, and learning some humility, damn it, because, like,
Yeah,
as,
that's part of human jutsu.
yeah, well put. And I think that this is something that, um, there's a spiritual element that people underestimate about literature, writing literature and writing poetry and whatnot. There's a spiritual aspect that goes unnoticed by most people. And it's something that, it's when I've been interacting with Caleb Hammond, or like who runs the St. Tolkien Substack, he's very in tune with that. And like a few times he's asked questions. I think about Howard, I think about like Beethoven, and made comments about Beethoven as well, and made comments about Tolkien and how they were reshaped by the works they did. And also that their spiritual characters and religious characters influenced their intellectual endeavors and whatnot. And that there is a spiritual element to art that most people don't really think too much about, and that we have to start thinking about again. And this is something I really do like the idea of, but I also, it's led me to wonder if, like, how do I put it? Uh, let's I'll use Beethoven again. Like, did Beethoven have a finite amount of music in him? I don't know, maybe, but well, probably not because of how much of a genius he was. But um, it happened that apparently after the first performance of the Ninth Symphony, he felt drained and tired afterwards, and it went on for quite some time. It was late; he was tired. But rather than trying to create another Ninth Symphony, he went on to create other works that were quite different. It seems as though he felt that he had created what he needed to create on that front. So, like all of the major symphonies of Beethoven and some of his minor sonatas were building up to the ninth. Like you could see that he borrowed and he took from here and there from his own previous works and reworked them in a way, whether consciously or unconsciously, into the ninth. So they were like, I've listened to all the sonatas and symphonies like in these YouTube videos where it combines all of them, and you can kind of see how it's building up to the ninth. Like if you listen to all his music as one big song, it's building up to the ninth. But then what a lot of people don't think about is there was some music after that, like his string quartet, which it sounds almost like heavy metal. But the thing is, I wonder if maybe I don't want to say postpartum, but like if I don't want to say that like he was spiritually empty after, let's say, he created the Missa Solemnis or the Ninth or Eroica, but the thing is, like once he created that, it probably felt like okay, something was not torn, but like no longer in him. But instead, he had to fill it with a different song. And so there was a new song that filled up his being and that he had to commit to paper and to, like, and had to have people play and perform. And he had to play himself because, he was a great pianist, the greatest in Europe. But the thing is, I'm just wondering if maybe, like, for example, Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings. He had that in him. He wanted to create a sequel to Lord of the Rings, but he couldn't. And I wonder if on a spiritual level, there was a block, a wall, like it's like, no, thou shalt not cross this. And if,
Probably.
and if maybe on a spiritual level and an intellectual level, he couldn't actually do it. He had created what he had set out to do. And if maybe, like it's like menopause, like he can't create another one. And that's it. It stops. The wall's there. And now he must seek to refine what he's already created, the Silmarillion. Um, so I'm just wondering, on some level, is there like I'm not talking about writer's block. Anyone who says that, it's like no, I'm not talking about writer's block. I'm talking about something completely different. I'm talking about like this about each piece of work having a spiritual aura or energy, let's say, its own energy. And once you like impart that into, let's say, a song or a book, you no longer have that energy in you. Now you might still have energy for more works. Like you clearly have a lot of energy for a lot of works. But I'm comparing it to the elven mothers who could only, like have, in some cases, 3 kids. Or in Nerdanel's case, Feanor's wife, she had 7. You know what I mean? Like some could have like a multitude of them. Others only have a finite number of kids in them. And they impart it, and it takes on a spiritual energy all its own. Like Virgil only had his Aeneid after a while. Like he created a bunch of small poems, which are great, but you look at the Aeneid, it's a masterpiece. How did he create that? It's beautiful. But he only seemed to have that work in him. He didn't have anything after the Aeneid. And he died like right after he finished it. So, like on a spiritual level, was I his child? And was he only able to have the one? So, like, that's what I've been pondering a little about when I say spiritual energy of a great piece of work, of literature or something. Because these things are time consuming, but they're also soul consuming. You know what I mean? Like, they consume an aspect of your soul, like a piece of it every time. Or maybe like it's like a part of your spirit is put out, or soul is put out, and you can't just take it back. You know what I mean?
Yes,
It
and it's also changed. So you cannot, in most cases, you cannot repeat that same uh,
too.
result. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You can't just. Well, I'm just going to make a double gemstone. Let's say in my case, I can't. Like I can't just make another Brother of the Gemstone. I can make the sequels. Like I tried making a copy with Darkspark Conspiracy, and I think you read 1 or 2 chapters of that. It's completely different. It's
Yeah.
Scandinavian. It's not at all the Brother of the Gemstone. That was my
It's
understanding. It's completely different.
when I finished
Mhm.
with the Blood and Frost
Yeah.
novel. Um, I'm not sure if you read the entire novel,
No, I
but
haven't. I'll have.
it's it's planned to be like a small series,
Uh-huh.
but it's not that I cannot write more in the same universe. I can. I have a bunch of drafts, but let's say certain characters, I can no longer write about them. It's impossible.
Well, there's also that
If I
characters
try
reach
that,
a character development point and their
yeah,
where their story's done.
and if I try to, they will be it's not going to be the same characters. That will be different.
Yeah.
Uh, and Which is why I looked for something else, for like another fantasy draft that they had. And this is when I discovered my old notes on the Call of the Winding Road, and that other story, which is like part of the D&D campaign that I ran on this, like the single D&D campaign that I ran on this universe. And I've been running different campaigns, and I've been writing a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of stories for them.
You're very
Uh,
prolific.
but there came a point where I could no longer write more for the, let's say, the Krat universe, the Kratian universe. I could not, and
Yeah.
this is when I began to envision a couple of different um, stories which are set in another universe, which is quite different than the Kratia one, which was like it had like specific uniqueness to it with
Yeah.
its uh, special magical weather and other things, which I'm not going to spoil.
Which is pretty
Uh,
cool.
yeah, it's like it's not just a storytelling gimmick. It's woven into the entire um, creation of the current world that they are inhabiting. So yeah, this is yeah, you're correct. I think that the more you think about it, the more you realize as an author and as an artist as a whole that certain pieces of artwork it, it takes from you, and in the process of taking, it changes you. You're no longer the same after each work. It's for some is quite exhausting. I had issues thinking of certain concepts when I completed my the fifth book of the Star Shattered series, for example. So I had to stop for I think a couple of months um, until I could recover and then continue with the next book. So yeah, it's um, it's intriguing thinking of it, and even somewhat scary.
Mm.
Yeah, because you, as an author, as a creator, you are always thinking, it's like, what if I cannot create anymore? What happens then?
Mm. And that's like, I don't say what I say to scare people or to scare you. I just wonder.
Yeah.
Um, but like, but that being said, um, is a creator limited to a certain number of epics or great masterpieces? Absolutely not. Like, I like to use some of the creatives over at Disney as an example. You look at Aaron Blaise. First work he ever worked on was, I think, like the Black Cauldron. That didn't work. That didn't go. No, he showed up in '87. So the first work he really worked on was Little Mermaid. After that, what did he work on? Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin. He helped work on what was it? On, well, everything of the '90s. You know what I mean? All those
Mhm.
great animated classics. You look at even Brother Bear. That was his pet project. Wow, that's amazing. Treasure Planet, all that. You look at Nigel Tranter, wrote almost 100 or 200 books or something on Scottish medieval history, all of it fiction, and this wonderful tapestry of great tales and stories. You look at Star Shatter, you've got what, 7, 8 books You look at your fantasy stories, you're on book 3. Like, you know what I mean? You got 3 books out now. So I don't think, like, when I say, like, you might, you can't just recreate something off the haw. It'll always be different. It's because it will be. But like, if you ask me,
Yeah. It's you just need to look at the Province of Terran series. Like there are 3 books of them, and each is vastly different, and
yeah,
even in style. Um, but not only because I have set a goal to make sure that not only that I'm able to write in such style, but I can modify and expand my writing style and use different tools per se to reach um, certain goals, certain storytelling goals. And if when you look at them, it's like even the perspective from which the story is told is different. It was especially hard in the second one, where it's actually being told by the person who experienced the story, and he's recollecting it. He's also supposed to be like a good storyteller because spacers are. This is part of their culture. Uh, they would go to one of these bars, these like um, congregation points for other spacers and travelers, space travelers and explorers, and even tourists to an extent. And they would tell these stories, but they would try to uh, be grounded and not like, well, they might elaborate certain aspects like for dramatic effect to entertain the audience, but they will not screw around with like the dangerous stuff. For example, if they went to, like it was in the second part, he went to like a super dangerous, like a really dangerous ancient derelict starship, which most people would die. They would die just by approaching it. And he would not say, he would not give the coordinates. He would not tell them where it is. But yeah, that's I'm just like
hmm. So I think this is a good place to end it. Any last thoughts?
oh well. Um, I hope I hope we can soon engage in new and different projects and
Oh yeah,
keep expanding our humble writing skills, um,
same.
which is probably to the biggest benefits of our readers.
Yeah,
So they wouldn't suffer typos and other stuff.
yeah. Like, how do I put it? Um, I don't like, for their sake as much as our own. I don't want us to just keep creating the same thing. Like, this is okay. For example, this is the whole purpose of me now writing a French Bulgarian novel, which it combines ideas from Gone with the Wind and Musashi with Bulgarian folklore and history and whatnot. And with even some French ones. The idea is to write something that hopefully will feel and breathe like Bulgarian literature, but also, and not just be a love letter to that, but also be a different style and type of novel from like Gemstone or Darkspire, which are very Tolkienian, like in the structure and the framing and whatnot. I want to try fantasy that's an epic romantic tale. Like the hero, he sets out on the adventure just to set out on the adventure, but he's also on a spiritual journey. You know what I mean? Like he's delving inward, like how the main characters have Gone with the Wind and Musashi do. He's on a spiritual quest. He's trying to figure himself out as a human being. But along the way, he unites the four kingdoms into one. So that's the story. But I don't want it to just be the end. I want it to be the journey. And because this story will require a different structure and a different narrative style and a different way of looking at narrative. Because like when you look at, like
How
stories like
dare you? How
what?
dare you? I said, how dare you?
Yeah.
There is only one way, and this is the holy weird way.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I like Tolkien, but I don't want to just write like stories that are just copies or like that imitate. So I'm trying to expand by getting into this
First we
other,
imitate, then we change, and then we expand.
yeah, pretty much. The only thing I'm still wanting to try experimenting and trying to figure out is the Silmarillion-ish framing. You know what I mean? If I call it framing, but like uh, creating stories like kind of like that, like as a background to the world and whatnot, because it's such a great structure for a narrative. But it doesn't mean I'm going to be making Silmarillions. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not just going to have shiny rocks. I'm not going to be writing about shiny rocks. That's not the cause of the conflict between the elves and Queen Hela. It's not. Um, I'm planning that she's just a spiteful old witch, and that could be as good as
Yeah,
any inspiration
that's
for.
enough. I mean,
That's enough.
when you look at history, how many people had suffered because like some spiteful old bastard,
It was a spiteful old
or
bastard.
yeah, or like a nasty old witch is like, yeah, I want you to suffer, yeah, just
Yeah,
just because they've through their own evil acts or like stupid acts, they've turned their own life into misery. They want others to suffer because misery loves company.
yeah,
That's
and
that's a, that's a good story as a
theme.
like, yeah.
And it's an old French thing because, like, we have, if you look at Schtroumpf, of Gargamel, he's wanting immortality, but he's also spiteful because he hates how happy the Schtroumpf are. So, like he makes Schtroumpfette in order to make, thinking if I introduce a woman to them, she'll make all their lives hell. In reality, he didn't realize it, but he created the divine feminine. You know what I mean? Like for the Schtroumpf, he created the only female of their race. And so now he gave them something that they've never really had, hope, in a way. You know what I mean? Like to civilize and to expand their lives and their beings in a way that they never did before. And it's a little funny because he's utter like the reason he wants to destroy the Strumpf. At first, it starts off an immortality thing, but later it's just he hates them. He's jealous of them. They're so much happier than he is. Well, that's enough. Like, you know what I mean? That's enough.
Yeah, how dare you? How dare you have fun?
Yeah, and
That by the way, that is
it's a very French.
interesting parallel with what is happening, has been happening for the past 20 years on in some online
Yeah,
sphere. Ah, it's just, how dare you? Yeah, yeah. We'll ban these words. You're no longer going to say these words. You're no longer to like allowed to write about this and that. We will forbid you from imagining things the certain way. You can no longer read this book because it's forgotten, and this and
yeah.
that. It's like, hmm,
Chill out.
hmm,
The rest of us just
hmm.
have fun. Like, um, like the harpies online will say, like, "Well, I don't want the Black Knight to write about like cheerful little hamsters. How dare he?" Well, come
Yeah.
on, man. Like, even if you don't like the story, it makes him happy. Who gives
the
a
more the more they like, I bumped into some of these like
really?
I don't remember if I mentioned that I had like a uh, really delusional feminist stalker, one of the social media sites that I used, and she was, oh boy, that's like pathological levels of hate. But as for the hamsters, yeah, there were like a few Gargamels was like, no, you should kill them off. Like they don't deserve to exist. That's like, this is too. How dare you write something whimsical in a sci-fi setting like this? Like, no, it should be all grim and full of death and this and that.
But
And
it
I'm like,
should.
why? Why?
Why
Oh,
not?
okay. So let me tell you about the hamster maidens, and they would flip out. It's like, what? What? No, he made it even more wholesome. No, because the thing with the hamster maidens, like, uh, they look for hamster heroes, because they live, like, their familiar structure is that a hamster maiden will find a hamster hero, and they will go on to build a hollow in some hill somewhere, or somewhere in the ground. They'll build it, and it'll be their home, and they will have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of children. And
A hole in the ground there lived a hamster. Named
yes,
Hamster Maiden.
yes, and some of them, some of the boys will, they will remain, and they will help, like, manage stuff, build stuff. But others will be like, I want to go out there in like in the space, and eliminate baddies. Like, this is what us hamsters do. This is part of our great hamster burden. Plus the jokes and everything. But yeah, they will do that, and the girls will be, I'm of marriageable age now, so I must also go out in the great outside and find a hamster hero. So these hamster maidens, they are badass, like, because to survive outside, they have to be, well, perhaps, well, they're not the hamsters are not Herculean in strength or constitution. They're small,
No.
even after the uplift. They're like wee creatures, but they compensate that with a lot of, um, how should I put it, um, a lot of cheerful optimism, crazy cheerful optimism, um, intelligence, and, yeah, they can also talk to weapons. That's what they have going for them. So, yeah, hamster might be weak, might be small, but if they have a good weapon, they can qualify for the hamsternator corps of the Great Diggers Society of the hamster species. And if I remember,
Okay.
I think you read that short story
Yeah, I
about
did
the,
with the hamster. It was hilarious.
yeah, yeah, it was like,
Sorry, I find all these hamster things just it utterly tickles me because it's just a part of me is like I don't fully get it, but like I'm just like, it's funny. Like
ah,
I'm not gonna freak out.
it's
Like it's
it's
fun.
they are like, the hamsters are my wholesome doom dispenser.
But it's I also think it's funny in that like how do I put it? Um like when you look at how um uh how do I put it? Um, well, keep things simple, but it's also that um, there are genuinely mean spirited people who just really, the Gargamels of the world, they are out there. And we've seen a whole whack of them in the past 20 years. And it's like how do I put it? It's like when right before the Berlin Wall fell, they were out in force. You know what I mean? Like throughout the Eastern Bloc. But when the Berlin Wall fell, it's like they had a brief surge in the 90s, and then they kind of fell asleep. But then they just in the past 20 years they've just come out in force, and it's like you've seen more of them than anything else. It's like, you know what I mean? Like it,
Yeah, that's because too many people have tolerated them.
yeah, and I kind of wonder if maybe on a spiritual level, those annoying nags from the Eastern Bloc moved out here in the west to the west. Like I know a lot of people migrated, but it's also that, like on a spiritual level, a lot of these bloody demons that were at force at work, you know what I mean, on one side moved over to the other. So that now the reason like the Eastern Bloc looks so much better is because it doesn't have this negative force within it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
they've
It
like
migrated.
vampires. They've sucked most of the life that we had culturally, and also
But
uh,
like the Eastern Bloc is,
yeah, yeah,
but here's the thing that I think the commies didn't understand. Like, okay, so like, you know what I mean? Like, you force something disgusting and evil and ugly upon the people of, let's say, Bulgaria, of Serbia, of, well, maybe not Serbia, but like, Poland, Estonia, Latvia, um, Eastern Germany. Now, who are the people who created German culture or Estonian culture or Latvian culture or Bulgarian culture? Well, it'd be the Estonians of the world, the Latvians, the the Germans, the Bulgarians, the Polish, the Poles, and whatnot. You know what I mean? Like you can only halt it for so long, but inevitably, like the Poles will create Polish culture. You can't stop that forever. Like that, it's coded into the DNA.
yeah.
Like Bulgarians will create
The
culture.
thing is that I often write about it is like the more you suppress that,
Mhm.
especially that creative urge, the more you suppress it,
Yeah,
it's like in the end, you're not going to like the result of your oppression and your
mm.
censorship. Yeah, you're not going to like the result. That's it. Always happened. It always happened. Like history is full of this, examples of this, and all of these morons in their imbecilic drive to enforce their authority. They're like, but my authority, I have this authority. I'll stomp you out. Like, no, yes, you'll stomp. Yes, keep stomping.
You'll start
It's like,
something up, but not me.
yeah. It's not going to be. You're not going to like the result of your oppression.
Yeah, like you're. So what will you have accomplished? Like, um, I've got a Finnish friend. Like he's a pastor. So now, as you know, I like to be friendly with people from all the different branches of Christianity because
And
I don't
especially
really. Yeah, the
Finnish
Finns
people
I love.
because they finish things.
Yeah, but he has a like he ended up telling me that he has the view, and I think he did some research on it about people who've come back from who were resuscitated, and whatnot. And he said heaven has her scriptoriums. So like his theory was, if let's say the the let's say, there was a new Stalin, and he's in, like, God forbid, you kill you, Joe. You're just going to move to a different scriptorium. You know what I mean? He's like, so what? They'll, like, you'll go on to create for God now, like directly, like within the realm of heaven. Um, the living won't see your works until they cross over, and because really there's a scriptorium in heaven, um, which I thought was a cool idea. And he said we probably only have 1%, if that, of all the creative works all the creative minds have made, because they're all up in heaven creating greater works, newer masterpieces, which I think that's a fascinating idea. And I think it's in the Inferno where that's actually true, where there's a stage of heaven that, you have all the creative works, all the creatives in the universe creating and creating. I forget, I've not read it in a while, so um, I can't remember much of that work. I've read it once, and um, but it was a long time ago. You know what I mean? Like it's faded in my memory. Um, that, or I only read bits and pieces and I don't remember much. It's just, I know a lot of people are like, oh, it remains in my memory. Yeah, but it didn't in mine. So there's some works like that. Like there's a few Shakespeare plays which have faded from my memory, like Romeo and Juliet. I barely remember the play. Um, I'm not wanting to lie to people. It's just Romeo and Juliet, for some reason, it just fades in my memory. I read it every few years and then I forget it. I know the couple die at the end because, it's a story that's more a warning than anything else. But if you ask me, like, who married them, I'm like, I think a friar, and I could be wrong. You know what I mean? Like, where did they meet? Party, I think. I don't remember. Cyrano de Bergerac. I got people who ask me that all the time about that play, and I'm like, I'm blanking here. I don't remember. I've read it like 3 times. I don't remember it. But then if you ask me, let's say, Joe, can you tell me about Odysseus's journey? I remember it a lot better. Or the Aeneid. Oh my gosh, the first place he goes to after he leaves Troy is North Africa, namely Carthage. From there, he's going to end up trying to cross over to Italy. Doesn't exactly get there. There's a few trips along the way, and he ends up in the underworld where he seeks the counsel of his father because he's still missing his dad. He's not yet ready. You know what I mean? To stand on his own. And then he's going to go to Italy and he's going to become the new Achilles in a way. He's got to incorporate into his being both Achilles and Hector in a way, rather than, and so that he will rise to become better, a greater Aeneas in a way. It's really interesting. So if you ask me, like, there's works I find that you forget sometimes, like here and there, details. Um, like if people ask me, like, do you remember perfectly, like, Pride and Prejudice? Because I read it. I go, no, I'm blanking on almost everything.
Yeah,
So,
I'm the same with that.
yeah,
Some works I remember them in great detail, but others, no. I just
no.
I vaguely remember them, and there are a couple which I completely forgotten.
Now, if you ask me, is Dante's Inferno a masterpiece? Duh. Like, just because I can't remember every detail of it, I remember a few of the circles of hell. You know what I mean? I remember, like, Satan's like swallowed. I think it's Judas. Like, he's having trouble swallowing Judas, Cassius, and Marcus Brutus. I think it is, right. I think so. And like, I remember I know the imagery described of Satan in hell, and it's creepy. It scares the crap out of me. It does scare me genuinely. I remember some details here and there, but if you ask me, describe everything, Joe,
No, no.
I'm like, no, I can't remember. But it's also that when I tried to read the work and I read bits and pieces of it, it always scares me for some reason. So I'm like, maybe there's me repressing stuff, you know what I mean, with that certain work because it scares me. But then when people describe that, like the heavens to me from that work, or when I've read what little I've read of it, I go, that sounds beautiful. I like that. And I can remember bits and pieces of it. So that's the thing. Like there, there's certain stories of Strumpf. Like when people say, "Did you read this one?" I read all the Strumpf stories. Black Knight. I loved them as a kid, but I can't remember half of them.
I didn't even know they existed
Yeah, Smurfs. Um,
because of the Harankartan.
the bloody Iron Curtain.
Yeah.
But I love those stories. But if you ask me what, like, what was it? What happens in the middle of the Stormfett story? Even though that's one of my favorites as a kid, I was like, now I'm like, she annoys people until she's made pretty by Grand Sturm. Then what happens? I don't know. Strumpfism, my favorite. I don't remember every detail. I forget parts, but I love that story. So yeah, but there's some stories which you never forget any detail of, like Macbeth by Shakespeare. I can't forget that. It's like it's burned into my memory. Um, Parts of the Julius Caesar play are burned into my memory. Um, you look at Richard II, it's pretty much burnt into my memory. I love that play. Um, you look at, um, like I read like Roland, it's burned into my memory. I love that freaking story. A lot of French stories are like that. I remember a lot of French stories better than I remember a lot of English stories, for example. Um, but you look at Lord of the Rings, Silmarillion, these things are burnt into my being. The Proseda, it's burnt into my memory. Like the Norse sagas are just burnt in there, into my retinas. The Greek mythology, like the Greek myths, the Japanese myths, Egyptian myths, are generally burned into my memory. Even a lot of biblical stories. Even when I was a pagan or an atheist, I still remember the biblical stories in such great detail. I don't know why. Maybe it's something about God and His story that just engraved itself in my memory, into my genetics, into my DNA, that I could not, like, I tried to repress it, but I couldn't quite forget it. It was always there in the back of my brain. But you see, there are some works like that. But there's some works you just, it like it fades in your brain. But yeah, a lot into that. But I'll actually say I welcome it a little because we need to intellectualize ourselves in our works more and more. And this is where I'm actually thinking maybe what's needed is also to um, intellectualize each other's works. And this is something I've been pondering, and I'm going to write an essay about probably a later date. But, anyways, I think this has been probably one of our better discussions so far.
Yeah, I agree.
And I've been thinking that for the next Friday night's talks, hopefully it'll be on a Friday, I don't know, next week, because I'm hoping to turn this back into a mostly weekly thing, but um, how do I put it? Um, like, obviously, like the week of Christmas, I'm not going to be available because,
Yeah.
uh, you know, unless I'm very sad and I'm very lonely, which you never know. But if I'm back in Canada,
Uh, maybe that Cosette of yours will have something to say about that. We'll see.
we'll see. We'll see whether my Cosette, any one of the two or three girls, well, I've actually been invited to the one Cosette does want me to talk to her about my Christmas plans next week when I see her. So
Mm.
there might be an invitation. Who knows?
Yes.
Um,
You have to elaborate upon your Christmas plans.
yeah, because she asked me if I had any plans this week and wants me to rediscuss it next week with her. Which that's the most I'll say about my in real life love life right now, which is very strange, very peculiar. And I've got about 3, 4 women who are basically asking me like trick questions and whatnot, and have me
Yes.
thinking before I speak, because I used to just speak before I thought. Now I'm having to ponder my words because, uh, well, words are magic and have a lot of power, and I don't want to shoot myself in the foot. I'll put it that way.
Yep, 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 yep.
But you know what? Christmas is the season of love and faith. So that was a very relevant question. And um, yeah, so Christmas plans, I think we'll both be probably busy. I don't know what the Orthodox like.
Yeah, we will have to say that we will both be busy um, around
Okay,
Christmas and New Year, and a little bit after that.
okay, because I don't know if Orthodox Christians celebrate Christmas at the same time.
I'm not sure if they kind of like aligned
Uh
the
huh.
dates, because they
Ours is
might have aligned the dates.
mhm. Our Christmas is December 25th.
Oh no, they didn't. There was talk like during the last
Mm-hmm.
Orthodox
Meeting.
gathering. I think a year ago, was it a year ago? I forgot. And they were talking about like, yeah, let's align some of the dates and this and that, but
Nothing came of it.
nothing
These
came out. Yeah,
probably it'll be a very slow process if the dates are to be
yeah.
realigned. Like,
They'll have
we,
to like, recalculate stuff.
yeah, and you can't just say, "Hey, one meeting, it's all the same date." No,
No,
like
no, no,
no one, not even I'd accept that. That's like you
no,
got
no.
meetings, you got to talk, you got to negotiate, you got to see how people feel. This is something that, honestly, in my opinion, I prefer it take years because you got to pitch the idea to people. You got to
Yeah,
let
they'll
people
they'll have to
know.
they'll have to do some theological wrestling
Yeah,
and other things. Yeah,
which there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
Um, what is the date for Christmas for Orthodox?
Should be 18th, the 18th of December.
Oh, well, that it's still close. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and if you cheat, you can like kind of spoil yourself on the 18th and the 25th.
Mm-hmm.
The cheating is not like the Christian faith isn't adverse to cheating like that. I have it on
Yeah.
good authority. I'm joking.
Ho,
You just
ho,
get a
ho,
hammer.
ho, 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 ho.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I have to tease because like, yeah, we're both Christian brothers, so like, um, but like in my view, I view that entire week like and this is also in Canadian and French culture. It's like from like around the 18th or 20th up through to like the 27th or so. Like people are generally like, the entire week is holy. You know what I mean? Like look at the 24th and 25th for us Catholics. It's a big deal. It must be the same way with the 17th and 18th for you. So like,
yeah.
that entire week, it's like,
I'll be making celebratory bread and stuff.
ooh, you should, and you should spend time with your family.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm planning to do. And my
Yeah,
brother is coming to visit too. So yeah,
obviously we won't be able to do anything that week. I might be flying back to Canada, and then the following week, I might end up in Canada. So that might be a 2 week off thing because we got to figure shit out. But anyways, we'll
yeah,
hopefully be back next week. Um, maybe we'll have a guest, maybe not. We'll see how we feel. How's that? And
yeah, yeah.
we'll,
That's a good idea. I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, and we'll carry on with these discussions, and I promise, get that Wolfram essay out just for you, Black Knight, and I will include a shout out.
Okay.
I already have
Thanks.
I now have a Word file open for it. So actually, and saved on my computer, I can't, not. Oh no, it's not yet saved, but I cannot just ignore it now because it's right open in my like in the corner of my screen. So I'm not able to ignore that. I might not work on it tonight, but I do have to actually, like I'll be waking up to it in the morning, no matter what, at 3 tomorrow. So I'm gonna have to type in at least a page tomorrow.
Yeah, you have fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I will. Anyways, take care,
Yeah.
everyone. Remember to subscribe to the Black Knight.
Yes. At the product screen.
Thank you. We're also still running our $6 sale for the year, an annual, subscription. So it'll be at the bottom. Like push the bloody button. It's beautiful. It's blue. It's sexy. I have it on Good at 40. Women love it when you click on it. But also, like I said, click on the subscribe button for Black Knight. His
Buy a
fantasy.
book.
Yeah, buy a book. Buy a Star Shatter book. The first volume's quite good. I'm only a little ways in. Buy the damn thing. You'll thank me later. So, check out his works. And you know what? Also, let us know in the comments section who you think out of the fiction stack people you might want to have come on board and just have an intellectual debate with us.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
we're open. We're spoiled for choice, and we don't mind people just saying, "Well, I'd like, let me see, Arcadian Wield," or "I'd like Hamster McKnight to go in." Well, I guess Hamster McKnight it is. I don't think there is anyone like that, but if there is, whoops. Sorry, and shout out to you. Anyways, take care, subscribe, do all that, and until next time, everyone.